Thank you for joining us for ARTDACITY. My name is Greg Ball. I'm director of Embrace Ideas for King Boston and also a proud BAMS Fest member, board member, rather. And we are here to have a great conversation with my buddy and friend, Catherine T. Morris, and with Lenny S., where we're going to be talking about growing Black culture through an economic lens, where the intersection of art and entrepreneurship. And let's start off with Catherine. Let's start off with
All right.
Catherine. And why are you don't do that? Like I said, don't show off in front of company.
All
You
right.
have
All right.
Lenny thinking that, you know what I'm saying. You have Lenny thinking that we don't know how to act. So
Uh,
Catherine, this is actually pretty special. I'm going to read this one. Catherine T. Morris is a
um,
social entrepreneur, visionary, and events producer who has worked in the intersection of arts and culture, equity, and creative placekeeping. Over the last 20 years, she has produced shows as well as mobilized and engaged local audiences in interactive events to experience the arts. She's a proud product of Temple University School of Sport, Tourism, and Hospitality Management in Philadelphia, PA. And she has also received her Master's of Science from Simmons University right here in Boston. But in this conversation today, she is speaking as the founder and executive director of the Boston Art and Music Soul Festival, an organization that breaks down racial and social barriers to arts, music, culture for marginalized communities and artists of color across Greater Boston. One of the goals of BAMS Fest is to become a pipeline to Boston's art and culture ecosystem and creative economy. And our other guest, our other panelist, is responsible for quite possibly my favorite Jay Z mixtape, which is the S. Carter remix mixtape that he did with Just Blaze. He started off as a young man working for Bad Boy Records on the street team, and then as a free agent does sometime, he made the jump over to Rockefeller Records and started from working in the street team to his current role as the senior vice president at Rock Nation. Please welcome our other panelist, Lenny S.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Greg. Hello, Catherine.
Thank you for joining us.
hey,
Thank you for
Lenny.
joining us. So tonight we just have some good conversation about how we can get some good information out there for folks in the world who are trying to build a life using their art. And I think the it's interesting. I talked about how you started off with Bad Boy Lenny. I'm going to start with you. Um, and I wanted to talk about that jump from Bad Boy to Rockefeller. And the reason I wanted to ask you about that, you were fairly young. It was like your first kind of touching into the music industry. What was the mindset that made you go from what was kind of like the 95 Bulls at the time to go to a startup? Because, when that was and actually it was around 95. So it was
Mm-hmm.
95 when you started to make that transition over. What was the thought process for you as a person that was trying to make your way into the industry? What were the things that made you feel like that was a move to make?
Great question that in 25 years, nobody really asked. So thank you. Honestly, so Bad Boy was right the biggest conglomerate, the biggest label out at the time. I mean, hits from everybody, from Biggie, Craig, just everybody. I mean, the label was on fire, total. Everything was moving amazing. Obviously, Diddy, one of the best and biggest, entrepreneurs, CEOs, producers, music men in the business. And it was an honor and a pleasure to be there via one of my good friends, Super Mario, who gave me the shot. But I felt not to say empty. I felt like I didn't deserve it. You know what I mean? They were already on fire. I came in while they were on fire. Yeah, I was on the street team. I was adding to the team, but I felt like I didn't help build uh, what a great label it was. And for me, I didn't feel right. You know what I mean? Like almost like I didn't sleep at night. You know what I mean? It wasn't stressed out or anything, but I definitely
Mhm.
felt like I wanted to be somewhere where I can start off, where I can be a part of, a label or a company that was going to, obviously, hopefully do as amazing as Bad Boy did. And that was my reason for leaving. So outside of being just like the biggest Jay-Z fan, even at that time, I had heard him on Big Daddy King records. I had heard him on Jazzo records. I'd seen him perform in a club or two here and there. So I was a big fan of Jay even before the albums dropped, just from his features and his singles that he had put out. And I heard that the company was starting, and I just thought this was my chance. This was my chance to get to a company that was a startup, that was brand new, and that I could hopefully be a part of, and feel right in this business and feel right in this industry, that I really, paid my dues and made my mark, as opposed to being somewhere that had already had trophies and feel like I wasn't really a part of getting those trophies. So that was my real reason.
So it's interesting because I know that baked into that Rockefeller Rock Nation mentality is this entrepreneurial spirit. How important was it to have that kind of go-getter mentality, and then also how important do you think that is for artists today?
I think it's important. One of the things I always try to live on is being self-aware, right? That's with anything, you know what I mean? In a personal relationship, with a girlfriend or a wife, with your children, with work, professional or personal, you should be self-aware. Put yourself in other people's shoes. If there's ever a debate, if there's ever anything that you're, contemplating with each other, or dealing with each other, and it was the same thing. I put myself in the shoes of what, like, what I really wanted to be, who I wanted to be in 5 or 10 years. And I think that artists should look at it the same way. I think that artists are taking accountability, and they're taking, how brilliant they are, and they're going independent, or they're building themselves before they sign to labels, and making themselves way more valuable, so that the labels have to come to the table with more than they normally did in the past, because labels always act like an asset, or they always act like, they're the big come up. But it's like, now I think those roles have reversed, and where the artist is the come up. So now the label has to find the artist, and hopefully convince the artist to sign with that company, because they're doing all the work. They know their value. They're putting the records out. They're putting, videos out. They're visuals out. They're going on tour. They're selling merch. So I think the roles are reversed, and that's a part of it. You know what I mean? Knowing, being self-aware of what you are, who you are, and what you're worth, what your value is.
And we're going to get into that a little bit more. But I think that, what's interesting about the three of us having this conversation is that while Catherine is in the world of nonprofit and working with the arts and culture from her perspective, and you're working with it from being in the industry, I think you both share a duty that you have when you're interacting with artists, which is educating them. And Catherine, I'd ask you, given the landscape of today, how difficult is it to get artists to understand something beyond the art, and kind of helping them create those spaces so that they can be able to do the things that Lenny's talking about, to be able to build the value in themselves so that they can have those conversations, maybe not necessarily with a label, but with someone who can connect with them to help them get to another level?
That's a great question. I started Vans Fest 6 years ago as I'm a fan first, and that's the lens that I operate from in terms of expectation. And it's very vast. And for me, working with artists, we went from 4 artists when we started to 400 to today, which is crazy. And what I've learned over time is that artists really struggle with putting their ego aside. No one owes you nothing. You have to work for it. It takes time. It takes practice. You have to humble yourself and take critique. It's nothing personal. But if you've chosen this life to be an artist, it comes with a lot. And for me, just trying to use all the resources that I have to support artists, I have to kind of be Medea sometimes. Just, everything from physical fitness to how you carry yourself, to Lenny's point, walking in the shoes of others. That's what gives you, I think, the full range of what's possible. But you can't just stay in one lane as an artist. You have to diversify in so many different ways. And so here in Boston, we're working very hard to ensure that the professional development of artists really sticks. We're not here to tell you how to create, but if you don't get this business side right, you're just going to remain an artist, period.
And And I think that that's something that, like I said, that's something that both of you all kind of confront. Like, Lenny, you're dealing with artists, and we were talking about this before we went live, and we were talking about your role where it was senior vice president of vice president of A&R, and then you do so many things. Like for you, when you're making those decisions similar to Catherine, but you're also making them from a business perspective. What are some of the things that you're looking for and when you're thinking about when you're deciding, you know, whether you want to get in business with somebody and it's a younger artist or even an older artist that's more established?
I think first and foremost, like how ambitious they are, right? Ambition is a really big thing for me. Knowing that you want to be a career artist and not a just for the moment artist, not a single artist, not a 3 to 5 year artist, So I think that's why we have so many icons, right, within the rock nation / Rockefeller, from Kanye to Jay to Rihanna to J. Cole. These are all like, career artists. These are not artists that, and others, of course, but artists that are going to be here, as long as, Stevie Wonder is, and as long as the Temptations were, and as long as, the Rolling Stones were, so that's important to me. And then their story, I've been saying this for years, like, right, people as an artist, you have to have people either believe you or to a degree want to be you. You know what I mean? And what Catherine was saying, like, I'm the same way. I'm fan first, right? So meeting somebody is like, man, being enamored by their story and being enamored by, where they've come from and what the things that they've been through. You take like Jay-Z and the great God bless DMX, for example, two strong independent men who had two totally different stories. One talked about, hustling and cars and music and jewelry and women, and the other talked about struggle and pain and, his grandmom and his dog and things that kept him at peace and things that hurt him, and two totally different stories, but same impact, same global impact. So again, it's like, some people may want to be Jay-Z, and then some people or all people would, believe DMX and believe the story. And when you have either one of those things, they just impact the world. They impact the followers. They impact the fans. They impact the people, in a way that, is unmatched,
And when I hear you talk about that, it makes me think about artists today, and the landscape has changed so much from when like Jay and DMX and all, like, the Bad Boy era. Like, it's changed so drastically, and we're talking about the music business, but you could even take that to other places as well. Coming into it, and this is a question for both of you, and feel free, whoever feels like jumping first. Maybe we'll start with Catherine. Um, what is it that you believe an artist needs to create, like in terms of their team and the organization around them? Because we talk about so much about independence and about how people want to do it on their own or create these spaces for themselves. What are the essential pieces that they need to build first?
Wow, that's a loaded question. I'd say definitely for us, at least at a local level, you first of all, you need a team that to me is small and mighty. It doesn't have to be big. It's really folks that hold you accountable when you're wrong, right, or indifferent, um, and that really believe in the vision, not so much your current situation, but they see how your story can transcend or transform across different generations, and how the content of your character can change lives. And so your team has to hold you accountable. I think the most basic folks, right? You need your hype person, you need your person who's going to motivate you and also tell you about yourself. You need someone who really understands how to advocate for your basic needs and also just for the things that are going to keep you going in your artistry. You need folks who can protect your intellectual capital, because that's real out here in these streets. And folks someone who can put you in front of diverse audiences so you can grow your base and literally go from local to global over time. So, for me, that's at least at a local level, that's the kind of team I would want to see more artists have. It's great to have friends, but not all friends are good friends, and folks will do some things to you. So I think it's really feeling out about what parts of yourself you're willing to have other folks tell you about, and work through that so you can get to where you want to go long term, and to Lenny's point, become an icon at the end of the day.
But there is a value in homeboy management, because you know that at least your guy that from around your way, like, like, worst comes to worst, you go back to back, but you getting out of that room or whatever that situation, you know that they love you truly for real. I know that's an extreme example, Catherine, but they love you for real. But Lenny, I know that you and Rock Nation has built your management to the highest level. You've been doing it for decades, literally 2 decades, and you've built relationships along those lines. When you're thinking of an artist or an artist team, what do you think are the essential roles that they should have? And who are the people they should have by their side?
I'm glad you brought up homeboy management, right? It's something I love to talk about, especially coming from where we come from a Rock Nation perspective, right? One of the things I love about Rock Nation is how we embrace and how we empower the teams and the people we work with, right? I've been in this business a long time, and I've seen artists who just started out, make it and then become bigger and then let go of their, either first management or homeboy management, because they want to get with somebody who's more established, who's more experienced, and by the way, I don't knock that, right? But it does disappoint me, because there are those people who started out with you, who embraced you, who, yes, may not have the knowledge or the drive to take you where you need to be, but they had it enough to get you where you're at, right? So I believe that there's a compromise there. And that's one of the things I can say we do at Rock Nation, what I love. I don't care if it's Meek Mill, Big Sean, Megan Thee Stallion, J. Cole, Mustard, Khaled, everybody that we've signed to whether management or label, there's always room there for their team. There's always a home team that they have on maybe the day-to-day, or that's out on the street front, on the forefront. And then there's the Rock Nation side and the office side, and we collaborate and we empower their team and we embrace their team and we teach their team the things that they don't know. And they may teach us things that we don't know. But I think that there's a lot to say about that, with artists coming up and emerging artists, or artists that, are about to really go to the next level, and not letting go of who you came with or who you came up with or who helped you get to that point. You know what I mean? So that's important to me, man. It's important to keep homeboy management around, obviously, if they're willing to learn and willing to step up, as they should, so that we could, make this thing a huge thing altogether.
Well, it's interesting the way you said that, because that's how you build the ecosystem as well. Because, okay, say your guy who came up with you, he may not know everything, but with a company like yours, it seems like that's how you get that next group of great minds in the space. Like, look at what LeBron did with his team. Like, he set them basically like, you're gonna go work over there, and then eventually we're leaving and doing our own thing. But it sounds like, unlike those other companies, the Rock Nation is set up to really, like, almost do that on purpose. Like, you're fostering that. Like, you want to see another team to come along and be somebody that came off of your tree. And it's very important to have that.
Absolutely, man. It's really rare that you see, like, a Ludacris or somebody like that who's been with Shaka Zulu since day one for 20 years or whatever the case may be. Those things are pretty rare. You know what I mean? So I like that we're able to, like I said, again, partner up and just embrace and empower the teams that are coming along and help each other out. And, the main focus is the principal. The main focus is the artist. And now they can lean on us. When that the friend that manages or the friend that co-manages the artist, when he comes in the door with us, now he has 20 years of experience. He may only have 3 years of experience, but now he has 20 years of resources. Now he has 20 years of everything that we've been through. He has that now with us. Now he can lean on us for everything he needs, or he or she can lean on us for everything they need in order, to get through doors they couldn't get through before, get answers they couldn't get, and make deals that they couldn't make.
It just seems smart, because, like, I went to public school. My math isn't that great, but I would rather, if I'm taking 5% of 30 million, I'm going to happily take my 5%, as opposed to
20% of 200,000. Yeah,
exactly. But it
Correct.
also speaks to the whole idea of the ecosystem. And Catherine, I will turn to you when we're talking about this whole idea of building an ecosystem. What Lenny is describing in Rock Nation is kind of feeding back into is paying back. Is paying back to
Yeah.
the culture and building that. How difficult is that for you? And what are some of the things that you're doing with your work to kind of do that as well? To do some of that giving back and building the bench of the next people to come along.
I would say it's definitely challenging because Boston as a market tends to be underrated. No one believes Black and brown people live here. Number one, so I got to fight that ecosystem, and then let alone
Very
the
true.
history or the role that we play in music and entertainment. Like we have a lot of folks that come out of Boston. We just don't get the credit for it. So that starts to perpetuate a disbelief even among artists that they have to leave to go be great. And the reality is just that, for us as an organization, we're literally creating platforms, big and large, to literally promote these artists in a way where they can be proud to be from home, be from Boston, but also go flourish other places. I think there's something to be said about pride or be able to have your home base rock with you. And it builds your confidence to go out and conquer the world because at any point you can come back and still rock a show regardless. So for us, we have like our annual festival that happens at Franklin Park here in Boston, one of the largest green spaces in the hood, over 500 acres. And we do basically like almost a 10-hour festival featuring local artists. Through and through, doesn't matter what genre, but we are focused on amplifying Black and brown artists because they're the most underrated people in the city. We also are working on things like BAMS University, which is a professional development platform for Black and brown artists to grow their practice, to understand what it takes to build your team, to sustain yourself, legalize your work, being able to copyright things. So they're prepared and they can negotiate wherever they go. And we're also working on physical health and mental strength. It's important. A lot of our greatest icons, unfortunately, have suffered for various different things that related to the mind and body. And we feel like at this moment, we have to prepare current and next generations on eating the right things or breathing or walking on a treadmill. As much as we take these things for granted, it's hard to perform on a stage and you have to have the stamina to do it. So we do that here, as an arts and culture organization for local artists because they need it so that they don't have to worry about, if they even have the resources or connections. We're doing that here at the local level. And I'm very proud of it.
As you should be. Can you put in a class about not rapping over vocals in the show?
Oh, please, please.
Can we do that as a class,
Please.
please? Drives me insane.
I will work on it for both of you.
Please. And how to hold the microphone properly. Those two classes, you can put them together. You know what I mean?
Listen, etiquette is crucial.
Yeah, man. Oh, come on now. So listen, so when we talk about that, and we talk about that, the idea of having that home base and that support and that place to go back to. Lenny, you've been on the other side of the desk when the artist comes in to your office. Is that something that you think of you at least pay attention to kind of, obviously we always talk nowadays, we talk about the streams and the views on YouTube and those kinds of things. But do you also kind of keep in mind that what the base support is in an artist's hometown?
Oh, absolutely. Because I think that's important, right? I mean, I think you should always have the hometown locked before anywhere else. I mean, you don't have to be the biggest rapper, you don't have to be the biggest artist in the town, but I mean, there shouldn't not be people in the city who are not like voting for you or just kind of like, what I'm saying, hoping that you make it because they've kind of seen the development and you growing and you know what I'm saying? That's important. You know what I mean? I need people, just me as a music man, I always need people outside of you or your immediate circle to tell me that they think you're dope or you're good or that, you know what I'm saying? You need to look out for this person or this artist. So I'm big on that.
I mean, I would imagine that helps you in your mind to gauge that? I always say the views and all that other stuff can be faked, but the reaction of people when you're in that room and you see a live show or a concert or whatever, you can't fake that. If they don't like you, they don't like you.
Not at all, man. And I've been in cities, I've done that a lot, man. My artist search days, I mean, I've been everywhere, all around the country. I was speaking to a friend of mine from Chicago, Extreme, great producer. He's in LA now doing film and television, but back in the day, he used to produce for like Kanye and a lot of the guys in Chicago, Bumpy Johnson and this other guy Sly for a while. But anyway, my point, they were street guys. But my point is, he was like, yo, man, you was coming to Chicago and you was hunting down Sly to sign him, man. Like these are like real street guys. Not word, they are. You know what I mean? And like, I didn't even think about that stuff. You know what I mean? Like that stuff was, to me, it was just like, I want them because they hot, they dope, they real. The city's behind them. They talking real stuff. They, you know what I mean? The music is dope. And that was just my mentality. I didn't think, oh, this could be dangerous. Or, oh, this could be, you know what I'm saying? I just thought my whole thing was authenticity. You know what I mean? So I was going around doing things I didn't even realize like could have been dangerous or could have been wild. But yeah, that stuff is important, man.
Absolutely. And I know that, it's interesting that, and we talked about the wellness piece earlier, Catherine alluded to it. For you, Lenny, when you're dealing with an artist, is that something that ever impacts you when you're thinking like, okay, how am I going to help this person kind of keep themselves together? Because the reality is, it at the level of what you're doing, it is a ride, to say the least. It's something that, not too many people can do it. Like, if you wear the wrong color shoes, it's on the internet and they talking about you for a week. Like, it's that kind of stuff. Like, it's hard to do that and to exist in that space. So what are some of the things that you've dealt with in that kind of area? Has that been something that you've had to think of, like, okay, I got to figure out how to talk this person off the ledge, or keep them away from this, or prepare them? Because I know we obviously know about the Rihannas and the Jay-Z's and the DJ Khaled's that you work with, but you also work with younger artists who are just starting out. So is that something that you think of also?
For sure. I think it's also about the artist, the confidence, you know what I mean? So even when I'm meeting an artist and getting to know them, that's another, quality I look for is confidence. I mean, again, everybody's human. Everybody may feel a certain way. People may get, talked about in the net, and it may affect them, and it affects different people in different ways. But I try to make sure that, the artist that I'm dealing with, kind of know that also is just the internet. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean that it's not real. Doesn't mean, but it's a bunch of people that don't know you that feel like they can say whatever they want to you. And I think 97% of them wouldn't say it to your face, or wouldn't say it, in person. You know what I mean? Even at a ball game, there's 20,000 fans there. There's only going to be a few who are actually going to yell out something disrespectful to you. Others might write about it behind the scenes. They might tweet about it. They might say it on the internet, but they wouldn't say it blatantly to your face. So it's kind of the same thing on the net and in real life. And you got to feel confident enough in what you're doing to know that you guys can't break what I have going on. You can't break my spirit. You can't break my energy. The energy and the spirit of what you're doing should count for a lot. Nobody could tell me nothing 25 years ago or today about Rockefeller, about Jay-Z, about anybody I work with, about Khaled, about whomever. Like, nobody. I don't care. You know what I mean? There's nothing you're going to say is going to break my spirit, my energy, and my loyalty and stuff like that. It doesn't mean I'm taking a blind eye to like things that aren't, legit, realistic, or like true. And I'll face those things when I get there. But overall, I just mean you're not going to be able to bully me in any sort of way, verbally, just anything, about the organization that I'm with, because I thoroughly, strongly believe that, we are this or we are that, whether we're the best or we're whatever that is. I really believe that. So there's nothing you can do. Mm-hmm. So hopefully, when I work with artists, I kind of just prep them to have that same kind of drive with their company, with their artistry, with their music, and with their organization,
Mm-hmm. And when you said confidence, I automatically thought of Khaled, because when you say confidence, God bless him. That listen, man. Listen,
Nobody has
when
that
he
kind of
he
confidence.
tells me that this album is about to be the greatest album in the history of albums,
That's it.
he gets me every time. He every
Yeah.
single time, dog, he gets me every time. There's no time when he's come out and talked that talk where I was like, I ain't listening to that. I'm listening. I'm all right. Wait, hold up. He got a record with Jay-Z and Nas. Oh, damn it,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah.
So,
And
so when you
by the
talk,
way, right? He
uh-huh,
genuinely believes it. We genuinely believe it.
Yeah.
You know, like it doesn't matter to him. It could be the Jay-Z and Nas record or the A Boogie
her
and Big Sean
Migos.
record. He genuinely believes the stuff that we're working on, that he's working on, is top quality, is amazing because he put his heart into it. He put his all into it. He really believes that this record is, one of the best that are out, and that's really how we move. Like, and of course, again, when you give out to the world, what you pour out to the world, the energy that we're pouring out, it's somewhat infectious. You know what I mean? You're almost like, well,
Absolutely.
damn, the names hold up and the beat holds up and then the music holds up and then the presentation holds up. You know what I'm saying? So,
Mhm. So, and speaking to that, I know you just put out the album with him. Um, and this is a question that we can both of you can kind of speak to. What were some of the challenges of presenting an album in the middle of a pandemic? And you know what I mean? Obviously, we talk about the usual rollouts. And what were some of the things that you learned during and during that process that you think you'll carry forward?
honestly, man, the biggest thing the pandemic taught us is, reevaluating, who you are, what you're doing in this business, and then, reinventing yourself. So reevaluating and reinventing. And, we've always done a good job of what we do, but it's like, when you get these things taken away from you, when you get the public or outdoors or, concerts and events, I mean, the entertainment business is driven by all things outdoors. You know what I mean? It's not
Yeah.
something that, unless there's probably a few artists who just stay home and make music and put it out online, and that's what they're concerned about, and they don't tour, they don't do anything, and that's fine. But that's a small percentage. Everybody else has to work these records. They need to go to radio. They need to do shows. They need to go to clubs. They need to go to in stores. They need to sell product. They need to touch the fans. So the entertainment business, I think, one of the businesses that got hit the worst because without being out there, without touching the people, how do we translate all this? You know what I mean? Yeah, you can put out music, but then you're not even able to go out to experience life, to write about, to make music about.
Right.
So you're doing everything, past. Music is usually pretty current. You know what I mean? So if you're working on an album and you're going off probably the last 2-3 years of your life from the stuff you talked about after the last album, all this stuff is relative. What are you talking about? Staying home all day, and so reinventing was something that we really put our minds to and thought, well, what can we do? Like, can we use our home for this? Okay, we can't film this commercial, in the Hollywood studio. So what do we do? Oh, we're going to film it in the house then. And we were doing Geico commercials in Khaled's house. We were recording in Khaled's studio in the house. We were doing interviews and lives and all kind of things from the house. And we made sure that we just turned everything around. Oh, Foot Locker or Finish Line or Snipes came to us. We did a deal with Snipes and we did stuff from the home. And so we just reevaluated, reinvented, and reassessed, and we just knocked everything out from home until the minute those doors cracked. And then we started getting back in the studio with artists, and we started. But even before then, we were sending records to people. We were pushing. We weren't. A lot of artists weren't in the same spirit of recording because you were home. You felt down. You felt unenthused. You felt uninspired. You felt somewhat depressed. So we made sure that we were sending good music around to kind of turn this thing around.
And Catherine, you had a similar experience in terms of the pivot that was necessary for the festival. Can you talk about that experience and what it was like to be, putting together a full scale music festival, and then all of a sudden everybody's got to, sit down.
Yeah, it was definitely a hard moment when we had to postpone. I'll say, I won't say cancel, postpone. And we had a full lineup of like 25 local performances. And when we made the call, it was like, well, what do we do with all these artists? Like, we cannot not show up. We cannot not have a platform. So we decided to pivot to a digital platform and take our festival online, and call it Amplify the Soul, which is currently happening. And basically, in times of COVID, when the restrictions weren't even lifted, we pre-recorded 11 performances, and now we are digitally releasing those every Friday to continue to give people the opportunity to see local talent here, and also be able to create a high production set of videos in a venue that also shut down during the pandemic, to also give people just, a little reminder that we were going to get back to a different normal. And it was hard just because everyone was freaking out about wearing masks and what do we do, and disinfecting, all those kind of things. But I think the spirit of the team that I worked with, they just kept the spirits high. Like, we're going to do this. It doesn't matter hell or high water. We're going to get this content out here. And what ended up happening during those performances is you could start to see the confidence being rebuilt. Because, to Lenny's point, no one could really create the way that they wanted to. So I think the stage reminded them of being able to get that practice, blow off the dust or whatever, and just get them back in the mode and being prepared for what is coming, which is where we are now, about being outdoors and being connected to the audiences. And I'm so proud of all those artists. They didn't have to do it, but they needed an outlet regardless. And for me, it was just great seeing them and watching them and flourish. I just know that pre-recording with a pandemic is not the easiest task. It is a lot of money, but I think the investment and the rollout of everything is just going to prove that you do have to have mental Teflon. You do have to have the stamina to make it work, because the entertainment industry will forever be changed because of a pandemic, in terms of just the different ways we have to move now. And being able to offer content online just allows local artists to go from local to global in a variety of different ways.
Yeah, I when I think about the way the world shut down, one of the other things that really jumps to mind, and Lenny kind of spoke to it a little bit when he was talking about the commercials and stuff, were the other ways that artists could monetize and open up opportunities for themselves. For both of you, this question: how important is that? Is that even more so important that now, after kind of going through this past year? Is it one of those things where people are having the mentality of, I've got to make up for the money that I lost? Or, how important is it for an artist to be able to make those connections outside of the music industry and outside of that direct relationship with the audience in order to monetize their work? Catherine, let's go with you first. I'm sorry, that was my fault. Sorry.
No worries. I think it's like, the concept of investing, right? Like, you have to diversify your portfolio regardless. You can't stay in the same lane. And artists really, I think more now than ever, I hope artists did not waste a pandemic in terms of like just sitting on their ass. Like, this was an opportunity to actually read and learn, and things were available at your fingertips of how to monetize your creative capital. And so I think more now than ever, it's very important for artists to really think outside of what has been traditional or what has been deemed the infrastructure. It has to change, just because of the fact of everyone's money shut down at the same time. So you had to figure out how to keep your lights on and still create at the same time. And the stages were not open, nothing was open. So of course you had to rely on probably a piece of technology you may not want to have a relationship with, but it's the one tool that could get you seen and also continue to help you to create and also connect with people who may not have even known you, but now they do because you have this technology at your fingertips.
Yeah, Catherine's absolutely right. I was going to say, for some artists, all they have is, club events, hostings, live shows and stuff like that. It's like really, really, really music industry, or rather like record industry, standard stuff, where they didn't have brand deals and they didn't have, a paid podcast that they did, or they didn't have outside, opportunities outside of like, performing and stuff like that to generate money. So they really felt it. Fortunately with Khaled, we had 7 brand deals or 10 brand deals, we were doing strollers and clothing with Dolce and Gabbana, and all kind of things. So we were all right. You know what I mean? We had to reassess a little bit and turn some things around because we couldn't tour, but it's fine because these 10 brand deals we had were amazing, and they keep the money coming in, and we were fortunate. But again, everybody wasn't as fortunate. So just going over what Catherine said, she's absolutely right, and it's like it made people again reassess, right, and think like, okay, what am I going to do now? I can't perform. And by the way, a virtual show was never going to do it as good as like a live show. And some people tried, and it just, you just can't really command the attention of the fans that way. You know what I mean? In my opinion. So they have to reinvent, and they have to really get, develop those relationships and know how important they are. Hopefully, coming out of this, moving forward, they just can't, depend on one thing.
Does having
I also
gone through
think
that?
I was gonna
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
no, I was gonna add that to what Lenny said earlier about telling your story. Like this was really an interesting moment to actually tell your story in many more different ways than on top of what you would normally do. And so to your point, like virtual shows, because there's something about being in a room full of strangers experiencing music. I also know that given what we've all experienced with COVID, whether it's racially or health wise, acting with one's experience is what allows people to take, literally or figuratively take you home with them because they have a piece of, you to remember by whatever that content or platform is. And so to Lenny's point, like you still, regardless, have to tell your story beyond your main platform, whether that's music or video. You have to do, more than just that, to remain relevant, but also to continue to build your legacy as an artist.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I love about both of you all is you both have a hand in creating a space for Black and Brown folks. With Lenny, with the Made in America festivals and the tours that you do, you're creating a comfortable and real space where we can come together. And Catherine, the same thing with BAMS Fest. How important is that for you to be able to say, okay, because we started having conversations around spatial justice and, being able to move around in the world the way that we choose to, how important is it for you in your work to be able to put those things forward, to make sure that you're creating a space for Black and Brown folks to be heard, seen, and respected? We can start with you, Catherine.
I stand on the shoulders of greatness. Someone already paid for me to be here. And so I have a responsibility to ensure that the next generation can stand on my shoulders to continue the work. And platforms like Bands Festival, ARTDACITY even, and Band University, we no longer are interested in waiting on other people to tell us about ourselves. We know what we need to do. And so we're doing it. Unapologetically, ask for forgiveness later. But for me, I'm no longer interested in waiting on someone to tell me what Black culture is. I live it every single day. It's who I am. So I'm a content provider. I'm a content expert, and I'm creating the platforms that I want to see happen, particularly in a city like Boston. But also, even the things that I do pay homage to the experiences I've had when I lived in Philly or New York or Atlanta. So I'm paying it forward because someone else is going to do it even when I'm not here, regardless.
And Lenny?
She took the words right out of my mouth. So I'm big, right, on paying it forward, empowerment, employment, opportunity, inspiring. And like, for me, same thing, man, Black and Brown, like that's what matters to me. I'm uneducated. I went to high school, but I wasn't able to go to college. My mom couldn't afford it. I couldn't get any kind of like grants or loans because of the money she made. And I went right into the music business, right? And people gave me a shot. And I always took that with me. It was like one of the reasons I wanted to get into entertainment business, besides the fact that I love music and it just moves me and drives me like nothing else in the world, outside of my children, is that having the opportunity to maybe do the same thing for other people coming behind me and other people that didn't maybe have the opportunity of education and the opportunity of having degrees to help them get really, great jobs, where some of us don't have that. we need something else. And it just can't be sports, and it can't be hustle on the block, and it can't be, what I mean. So entertainment business, I think it's a great business that don't have to just be a rapper. You can be a video director, you can be a marketing major, you can be digital marketing, you could do radio, you could do there's so many departments and so many lanes. You can do management within the entertainment business that can make you tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions. And that's what I've been all about, man. There's a guy by the name of Beast Williams, good friend of mine, young kid photographer. One of my good friends, Terrence J, and I found him social media. He's a photographer, and like this kid was living in Queens maybe 2 years ago. He's in LA now, living with us in LA. I mean, I had him with me last week shooting, June Ambrose's 50th birthday party with Jay and Beyonce there for Vogue magazine.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like this kid wouldn't have had that opportunity. You know what I mean? For somebody, I'm not saying he would have never got it. He probably would have never gotten it this quick. And so again, like I've been doing that for 20 years. I've been finding people on social media, on Instagram, in real life, and in person, and giving them opportunities. I don't care if they were, like I said, filmmakers, directors, photographers, whatever the case may be, whatever you wanted to do. If I can provide the opportunity, I'm going to give you that opportunity, and you take that and you move it on. So it's like Catherine says, all about paying it forward, man, and making sure that I really stand on we all we got. Black and brown, we all we got. Like we really got to empower each other. We really got to employ each other. We really got to make sure that I send people bags and jobs and checks here and there, and they be like, man, thank you for thinking of me. Wow, but you know what I mean? And it's like, of course, like we all we have. You know what I mean? If you could do it, I'm gonna make sure I send that over to you right away. So it's important that we empower each other, man. I'm very big on that.
Absolutely.
I mean, but it sounds like for both of you, that is something. And I always talk about the DNA of a organization. What is built into the founders' thought processes and the people that work there? And like when you're saying that that's all we got, that's stuff that we've heard from from everything rock forever. Like I had the privilege of being able to interview Biggs and Emery a few years ago, and they were saying the same thing that was on the records. Like, and I saw it in real life. You know what I mean? So it's very interesting to me to see that's something that's in it, that's deep into the DNA of the company, and even what Catherine's doing at BAMS Fest, like that sharing and that giving is in there as well. When you're putting together that organization, how important is it that you're looking for that person that has that? Because you talk about putting people on, you that's got to be one of those things that you're looking for with them as well.
Yeah.
Either one.
I mean, again, I look for people, like I said, their drive, their ambition, their attitude, what they're willing to put in, what they're willing to not to put in. You know what I mean? I'm 25 years in, and I still act like it's 95. You know what I'm saying? Like there's nothing I wouldn't do for anybody on my team. There's no place I wouldn't go. I would get, I'll make somebody a sandwich. I don't care. I'll drive. I'll ride in the trunk if there's no space because we need more space in the front. Like I don't care. You know what I'm saying? But I also walked into this, with grace, and I walked into this with humility, and I walked into this with no ego. And a lot of people don't move like that. A lot of people, the ego is there, and they have to be a certain level, and they have to look a certain way, and they have to they can't look embarrassed, or they can't look whack, or they can't look, or whatever it is that makes them feel inadequate or not good enough to like be the shit. I mean, I don't care about being the shit. I care about getting the job done. If that's an artist, I care about making that artist the biggest thing in the world. If it's a party, I care about making that party the hottest party you ever been to in your life. If it's an album, I care about having the best features, the best production, and the best songwriting. So it's like whatever I do, it's always that before me. So I'm willing to sacrifice. I'm willing to not sleep. I'm willing to, and I hear people half my age like, oh, I'm tired. I got to take a nap. Or, oh, I'm exhausted. This weekend was crazy. But like, it's been crazy for me since '93. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't even think like that. And I'm not knocking nobody. I'm not judging, but it's just like, I just think it takes a certain tenacity. It takes a certain drive to be in this, to win the way we want to win, and to not settle, and to just go hard. And it takes the same thing for Catherine to build what she's built. in order to make the moves that she's making, in order to build the artist that she's building, in order to make this work. And that doesn't come from just like, just taking it easy or just going with the flow. No.
It's a hell of a sacrifice. I mean, for me, I'm looking for integrity. I come from a family of doers. Like, the goal is, if you don't have calluses on your hand, you ain't working. So the reality is that you have to, and that for me in starting the organization, yeah, I'm the founder, executive director. That's cool, but I knew the moment I planted the seed, it's going to take the community to make it grow. Like, it's not one person anymore. The purpose is bigger than, it's not singular. And to Lenny's point, not everyone sees that. It could be from conditioning, it could be from the fact of how we look at each other. But at the end of the day, excellence for us.
Because trust me, stuff that many of us will never experience.
Right.
You figured out how to, you know what I'm saying? Trust me, don't, please, brother, don't ever use that terminology ever again. That is not an accurate reflection of what you've done. Because you figured out how to take somebody. You figured out how to take somebody who messed up on a jet ski and turn that into $1 million moment. You know what I mean? That is brilliance. That's genius. So that's something that's not everyday stuff. I think the question I would have for you is, for both of you, and we talked about that start, is what would you tell your younger self if you were running into yourself when you were just starting BAMS Fest, and it was at that beginning, and you were bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and you were ready to take on the world, and Lenny, you had made that decision, and you talked to the team at Rockefeller, and they finally were like, okay, you've been around enough, and they had that confidence in you. What would you tell yourself at that point to go forward? What would you go back and tell yourself to do differently? What would you tell yourself to focus on? What's the advice you would give your younger self? We'll start off with Catherine, because I see her shaking.
I'm like, yeah. Start earlier. I really wish I actually started earlier, because Boston might actually look a lot different. And definitely, remain confident in what you know to be true about yourself. To Lenny's point, like, I'm 6'6". I can't change that. It is what it is. I'm gonna have this fat afro, and it is what it is. But I know that as a visionary, I'm already seeing 10, 15 years from now, and some of the people that are with me are not going to be with me in the future. But vision is very clear, so I'm gonna make it happen just earlier in my life.
Okay. All right, Lenny, what about you?
I really wish, I agree with Catherine. Confidence is one, right? I really wish I was confident earlier on in life. And when I say that, everything that I did, because like you just said, brother, like, because I wasn't educated, I always felt like, things that were handed to me, or, the shots that I were given were like, where they were a chance, and they were a chance for me to prove who I was, but maybe I hadn't earned it yet or whatever. And maybe I was earning it along the way. Now that I'm at the age that I'm at and the experience that I have, I know I was earning it. But at the time, I was scared to become an A&R, not because I didn't want to make music, but because I hadn't done it before and I hadn't been properly trained or formally trained. You know what I'm saying? So I thought, I didn't come from another label where I had 3 artists and I had success, so I can't be an A&R. Same with management. People came to me before I was a manager. People came to me all the time, was like, yo, Lenny has to manage me. And I'll be like, what? I can't manage you? I didn't go to school. I don't know how to work numbers. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do that. And I went for so many years, doubting myself, not in the kind of way where, like, I'm walking around head down, like I can't do nothing, but just like, I don't want to mess up this artist's career. I don't want to mess up this artist's life. And if I don't have that, really, I didn't think I could be, Chris Lighty or Jay Brown or, any amazing manager out there. I didn't think I could do it until, like, my friends sat me down one day and was like, what are you talking about? You got this person on the tour. You got this branding deal. You got this, showcase. You got this album deal. You got this. And they named me, like, 10 managerial things that a manager would do. But again, I didn't think of it like that. I thought of it as like, oh, I'm just going hard. Like I don't, again, not maybe being formally trained, I didn't know that those were the things that were under management. I just thought those are things you did when you loved an artist. So when you go hard. No, I didn't work in branding, but why am I going to wait for branding to do it? I'm going to meet the person from the Gap and I'm going to sell them this artist and it's going to, you know what I mean? So that was my mentality, but I couldn't put those things together and say, hey, these are the things that make a great manager, or these are the things that make a great A&R. You know what I mean? And Damon Dash and Jay-Z and Biggs gave me that chance of being a great A&R, or an A&R at the time when I didn't know I could be. I just wanted to, but they was like, you bring us hot music, or you bring hot beats, or you talk about hot artists before they come out. That's what an A&R is, right? The discovery process of those people. So again, it just took me a while. Same now, I'm just coming out with my book, my photography book 25 years later. Obviously, that would have took some time, but this is something 10, 15 years ago, Swiss Beats and Steve Style were on me like, you're crazy, you should be dropping a book. And, had I listened, I could be on my fifth book by now. No regrets, but again, had I been more confident in myself, had I been more confident in the way that these kids are moving today, by the way that these kids are 22, acting like they have 35 years experience, which is amazing, is what's getting them. It's the same thing that's maybe getting LeBron more than Jordan got at the time he got it. You know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily mean who's better. It just means, you're getting way more knowledge and way more confidence and way more ambition at an earlier age or stage in your career, that you can chase things that you actually fucking deserve. You know what I mean? And I do deserve a lot of these things earlier on, but the lack of confidence and lack of knowledge made me feel like I wasn't deserving. So that's something I would change, and that's something I instill in everybody today. Really quickly, I'll just give you a quick example. I'm sorry if I'm long-winded.
Please, no, you go as long as you want, brother.
So I was talking to Swiss Beats, right, about, I've never done an exhibit and a gallery show for my photos, so that's coming soon along with the book. And, Swiss is like, he's been like, oh man, one of my great friends who always pushed me. And we were talking about how this has to do with We All We Got. We were talking about how he wants to make my show the biggest show and the biggest, sponsors and black tie, and it's going to be the most amazing thing in the world. And I was like, yeah, that's dope. I was like, yeah, and maybe we could do a second show or another show, or have other rooms where I put these other photographers in that I want to showcase as well. And he stopped me and was like, you see what I mean? Like, I'm focusing on you. I want you to shine. And you're talking about 3 other photographers. But like, that's just my mentality. It's like, I don't want them to wait as long as I waited. And they're probably more talented than me. Raven, Ravy B, Ivan Barrios. Like, just like so many people that I'm fans of. And I'm like, nah, they're in their 20s. Like, they should be doing this now. I don't want them to wait like I waited. So again, man, we all we got, and just know that how powerful you are. Know how beautiful and talented we are as Black and brown people, and then how much we dictate and lead and run the culture and everything, not just our communities, in the world.
Well, just as an aside, I might know somebody in Boston that has a museum or two that we could bring that exhibit up to with you and them. So, let's make that happen.
100%.
That's not going to cover. What'd you say?
No, I'm saying 100%. Yes, please. Yes.
Yeah, let's make that happen. Because that's a weekend. We're gonna have a good time, boy. We have the exhibit. We're gonna throw at least one good party. You know what I mean? So let's do it.
Absolutely. I was gonna say I'll be up there. I'm gonna come up for when Virgil opens. He's opening, right? I think in July.
Yeah, he's gonna be at the ICA. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm gonna come up there for that. Spend like a weekend there. We should all get up and just kick it, have lunch or whatever.
Absolutely. There it is. Don't get everybody in the chat excited, because they're gonna. I know something now. I was like getting text messages like, "Yo, put me on the list." Slow down, son. Slow down. Just ease up. Well, listen, this has been an incredible conversation. We may have to do a part 2 at some time in the future, where we continue to dig into these conversations. And I appreciate both of you all for sharing your stories, and letting us know about your journeys to being in the spaces that you're in. And for the folks that are out there that are watching us, Artdacity is about these conversations on a regular basis, and we hope that you'll be coming back more and more and more for the future episodes. So Lenny, to my guests, Lenny S. and Catherine T. Morris, thank you both so much for joining us. And to all you folks out there, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you. It was an honor, guys. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Lenny. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes. And I think, hold on, let me not get excited. I want to say, I think we're clear.
Art.
Don't make me lie.
Art.